Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope it shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace it shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open our eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love it shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Good morning. Welcome to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Carrie Krause, the Director of Lifespan Faith Development. This month at Live Oak, we're talking about the continuum between trust and skepticism. And this morning, during worship, I'll share with you some of my thoughts about learning to trust yourself and how skepticism plays a role in developing that trust. A special welcome to those of you who are visiting us. If you'd like to stay in touch with what's happening here at Live Oak, and there's a lot happening each week, please subscribe to our newsletter. You can find a link on the homepage at liveoakuu.org. And for first-time visitors who'd like to learn more about our congregation, there's a link on that page that you click, fill out your name and email, and you'll be sent more information. As is the tradition in our churches, we begin our services by lighting our chalice. So I invite you to draw your chalice close as we light them together.
says do. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. You got to sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you got to sing. Oh Lord, you got to sing when the Spirit says sing. 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 You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. When the Spirit says dance, you gotta dance, oh Lord. You gotta dance when the Spirit says dance. 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 You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says do.
Today's big idea is Giraffes Can't Dance by Giles Andre, illustrated by Guy Parker Reese. Gerald was a tall giraffe whose neck was long and slim, but his knees were awfully crooked and his legs were rather thin. He was very good at standing still and munching shoots off trees, but when he tried to run around, he buckled at the knees. Now, every year in Africa, they hold the jungle dance, where every single animal turns up to skip and prance. And this year, when the day arrived, poor Gerald felt so sad because when it came to dancing, he was really very bad. The warthogs started waltzing. The rhinos rock and rolled. The lions danced a tango that was elegant and bold. The chimps all did a cha-cha with a very Latin feel. And 8 baboons then teamed up for a splendid Scottish reel. Gerald swallowed bravely as he walked toward the floor. But the lions saw him coming, and they all began to roar. "Hey, look at clumsy Gerald," the animals all sneered. "Giraffes can't dance, you silly fool. Oh, Gerald, you're so weird." Gerald simply froze up. He was rooted to the spot. "They're right," he thought. "I'm useless. Oh, I feel like such a clot." So he crept off from the dance floor and he started walking home. He'd never felt so sad before, so sad and so alone. Then he found a little clearing and he looked up at the sky. "The moon can be so beautiful," he whispered with a sigh. "Excuse me," coughed a cricket who'd seen Gerald earlier on. "But sometimes when you're different, you just need a different song. Listen to the swaying grass and listen to the trees. To me, the sweetest music is those branches in the breeze. So imagine that the lovely moon is playing just for you. Everything makes music if you really want it to. With that, the cricket smiled and picked up his violin. Then Gerald felt his body do the most amazing thing. His hooves had started shuffling, making circles on the ground. His neck was gently swaying and his tail was swishing round. He threw his legs out sideways and he swung them everywhere. Then he did a backward somersault and leapt into the air. Gerald felt so wonderful, his mouth was open wide. "I'm dancing! Yes, I'm dancing! I am dancing!" Gerald cried. Then one by one, each animal who'd been there at the dance arrived while Gerald boogied, and they watched him quite entranced. They shouted, "It's a miracle! We must be in a dream! Gerald's the best dancer that we've ever seen!" "How did you learn to dance like that? Please, Gerald, tell us how." But Gerald simply twirled around and finished with a bow. Then he raised his head and looked up at the moon and stars above. "We all can dance," he said, "when we find music that we love." The end.
As children, we trust ourselves implicitly. When you watch children playing, they don't spend time wondering if building the sandbox is the best use of their time, or if they should be on the swing. They just follow the path that brings them the most joy in each moment. As we begin a formal education, we are taught to sit at desks even when we want to move around. We are taught to hold it rather than use the toilet when our bodies suggest. We are even taught that when we inhale, our stomach should suck in rather than fill and expand as we fill with air. Our natural rhythms and instincts are shushed until we can hardly hear them anymore. As teens, we listen to our peers and their suggestions of what is cool and what we should like or dislike. We rely on the voices of our culture, our religious leaders, our friends, and our family to help us identify what is right and wrong, who we should vote for, what we should eat, how we should live. Soon, we are caught up in behaving the way our ego believes we should, that we have trouble separating our opinions from the opinions that surround us. As adults, we are told to trust our gut, to follow our instinct, but we have spent our formative years tuning down the volume of our own inner voice. How can we begin to trust ourselves again? Trusting ourselves is like building a muscle. You don't just go to the gym and immediately become fit. There is a process that involves coming back again and again until you eventually reach your goal. Every time you flex your trust muscle, it strengthens.
So what is self-trust? One online source defines it as a deep reliance on one's own ability to handle life. In other words, developing the resilience and the knowledge that no matter what happens, I can deal with it. Now, this kind of self-trust comes naturally, more naturally for some people than others, but it can be cultivated, it can be learned, you can work on it. Full disclosure, I'm a skeptic. I am a doubter. I question everything, even myself. I've been that way for a long time, and some people might think of that as a glass half empty attitude on life. I don't see it that way, but I also know that I'm the way I am because of my life experiences, especially in relationship to other people. When I was 16, I was in Corpus Christi doing some work during the summer, and one night, late at night, I went out on the beach. It was probably midnight, maybe a little bit before. It was dark, it was quiet, and I sat in the sand and I listened to the ocean and I watched the waves come in. The moon was high in the sky. And I had this sensation, this moment, this experience that I don't even know how long it lasted, where all of the definition between me and the sand and the air and the water dissolved. It was as if I was grounded and part of the sand at the same time that I was part of the air. There was this sensation of floating, of being held by the universe. At that time in my life, I defined that experience as touching God. Not the God necessarily that I had learned about in my church. It was much bigger than that. It was a much larger experience than anything I could have imagined that God to be. It was such a profound experience for me and so exciting that when I got back to my church youth group, I had to share it. I was so excited to share with them this wonderful, transformative, transcendent experience that I'd had. Imagine being that person sharing this life-changing time and being told that it wasn't real, that you had imagined it all, that you'd made it all up, that it couldn't possibly be what happened to you. That day, my authenticity my truth, were questioned by the people I held most closely. That was the moment when I learned the lesson, you can't trust yourself. Deep inside, I knew that the experience was real for me. I didn't need a scientific explanation or a religious explanation for what had happened. That would deny the very experience, trying to put a boundary around it. There were many times since then that my own doubts about myself being worthy have gotten in the way of trusting my inner voice and being an authentic person. My soul went into hiding that day for fear of being ridiculed. My suggestion to anyone else who's had that kind of experience is trust it. Trust what you feel. Know that what's real for you is real. Let that mystery be. You can share it with other people, of course, but don't let their doubts, their skepticism, color your own sense of what that experience was for you. There's a difference between trusting that you know everything about everything, that's hubris, and trusting that your experiences and your instinct and your learning can be your own guide. I'm not saying that we stop learning. I mean, skepticism is a great balance that keeps me growing all the time. That sense that I don't know a lot of things and maybe I'm not right. But that same skepticism, it can block my ability to act, my ability to do what I want to do. That feeling of, I don't know everything, so should I trust myself to do anything, can keep you from living your life. As a musician, one of the things that I have always wanted to do, and I'm working on, is to play easily by ear, easily and comfortably, to play music by ear. For some people, this comes very easily. It's a gift they have. Not me, for a variety of reasons. I'm not one of those people. But I keep trying, and I keep working on it. And one of the things that I'm learning to do is to let go and take the risk, trust myself to make the music. I've had the theory, so I have the knowledge. I know the notes. I've practiced. I can hear in my head what the music I want to play is. The next step is letting go and letting it come out. I need to trust myself and play. Victor Wooten, arguably one of the best bassists in the world, says that when he plays, he isn't thinking about theory. It's in the background. He has the knowledge of theory. He has the notes in his hand, but he's in the groove of the music. He trusts that everything he has learned can influence what he sends through his fingers to that guitar. He trusts himself to create music in the moment. So the next lesson in trusting yourself is you have to build on your own experience and knowledge. And you have to take the risk once you've done that. So you make a mistake. Trust what you know. Don't stop learning. Risk making a mistake. You'll learn and you'll move forward. Jordan Gray says that in terms of the root issues of what gets in the way of self-trust, there are two major culprits. Our truth was made wrong by family, friends, the culture, society, or peer group around us. And we are simply in the habit of going against what our hearts have to say because our truth is somehow viewed as inconvenient. In either case, self-trust is reclaimed by rekindling our relationship to ourselves and treating ourselves as we would our most cherished friend or loved one. Another key component of building self-trust is loving yourself, being kind to yourself. One of the things that I most appreciate about the Live Oak community is your commitment to authenticity. You bring that to everything that you do. And your phrase, the phrase that we hear so often, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. That instills a sense of worth in everyone who hears it. That starts to build that self-trust. And your collective openness has given me the courage more than once to not abandon my personal values for fear of acceptance. 6 steps to trusting yourself. Be yourself. Be authentic, and if you need to start with a small group of people who you're in relationship with, do that. Be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself when you make a mistake. Forgive yourself when you doubt yourself. Set reasonable goals. Nothing erodes trust faster than setting a lofty goal, not achieving it, and feeling like you can't do anything right. Be decisive. Make a decision, go with it, and if you make a mistake, you learn. Back to be kind to yourself. Build on your strengths. What do you know? What do you know about yourself? What do you know about the world? Take that base of knowledge and use that. And finally, spend time with yourself. Make time to connect the dots between your inner voice, your experience, what you feel, and what you know. So, how many of us actually do that? It's easy to be self-critical and to stay focused on the busy things in outside life because sometimes it's hard to look at our insides, to really reflect on who we are. We're uncomfortable with that. To counter that tendency, we need to take and make time to listen to that inner voice that we have, the one that has been there all along, the one that whispers in our ear. It might have been silenced by experiences. It might have been silenced out of fear, but we need to make time to let it express itself. There's a small group of Live Oakers doing just that this year through the Wellspring program. We're making intentional space to hear that voice, to reflect on what it's saying to us. One of the ways that we're doing that, and one of the things that you can try, is finding a spiritual practice. It can be whatever you define it as. It's just something that you do with intention. The intention of listening to what's happening, to experiencing the moment. So, those are some of my thoughts about trusting yourself. You probably have other ideas, and I'd love to hear them. Yes, I am a skeptic by nature, but on the continuum between trust and skepticism, I have learned to trust myself more and more. And despite of, or maybe because of all I've experienced, I do feel like I can handle anything that life throws my way. I feel resilient. My wish for you is that you cultivate that same resilience and the fortitude to trust your instincts, your deep knowing, and the gifts that you bring to the world, so that you can share them more freely. May it be so.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Thank you for joining us for worship this morning. And a special thank you to the people who helped create this morning's worship service. Our readers, our musicians, and our production team. We couldn't do it without you. I have a special invitation for those of you who are visiting for the first time. If you'll go to our homepage and click on the link Just for Visitors, you can join a special room and be greeted by a couple of Live Oak members who are there to answer any questions you might have. And everyone's invited to join us for Fellowship Hour. That link is also found on the homepage. We gather together for a few moments to say hello, and then we break out into smaller groups where we can share more deeply about our lives and reflect on a question of the week. I'd like to leave you with these closing words. They're from former Prime Minister of Israel, Golda Meir. Trust yourself. Create the kind of self that you will be happy to live with all your life. Make the most of yourself by fanning the tiny inner sparks of possibility into flames of achievement. May your week have peace and happiness and fulfillment. And we'll see you next Sunday.
Soon the day will arise when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world